Hello. I am Nibberful. Welcome back to my channel. Finally doing it tonight, guys. We're doing a JCS reaction to the one about Casey Anthony. I have a feeling I'm about to rage. I've definitely been putting this one off because not only is it a bit longer than the other ones, can't stand this woman. She really makes me angry. So this is probably going to be on the level of my Chris Watts videos that I did, or probably worse, because screw Chris Watts, but screw Casey Anthony. Wow, she sucks. But anyway, why don't you go ahead and hold on to your butts, guys, because this one is about to get crazy. Definitely gonna need the emotional support pumpkin for this one. Let's get into the video. Gotta get my hair looking good. Actually bothered to wash and blow dry it today, so might as well make the most of it. Gosh. Right. Judging by this very beginning frame, I am so not ready for this. This poor little girl. Look at her. So cute. Okay. Let's just go for it, shall we?
Most of you will already be aware of who 2-year-old Kaylee Anthony was. The majority will know that she sadly passed away at some point between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. on June 16, 2008. Her death is undoubtedly the most heartbreaking part of this story, and we only need a single word to epitomize her short life. Tragic. But the primary subject of this video is not about the life nor the death of Kaylee Marie Anthony. It is in fact about the psychological constitution of her mother, 22-year-old Casey Marie Anthony. So rather than tragic, you'll find the words disturbing and perplexing to be far better suited to the theme of this video. One of the many reasons this case is exceptional is how the present day's topic of discussion has little to do with the actual occurrences of the crime, but in fact the subsequent developments that followed. People are no longer talking about how or even why.
That's very true, actually. I honestly don't think I actually know the official cause of death of Kaylee. I know some of the details, like there was duct tape over her mouth, so maybe it was suffocation, but yeah, most of this case has definitely been about how fucking weird Casey Anthony is and just the insane lengths she went to cover up and just lie about anything that happened to her poor daughter, man.
Why Kaylee Anthony passed away. They are instead talking about the manner in which a mother responded to her daughter's death. Yeah, given all the acquired information we now have, even if we afford this person the most morally acceptable possibility of what occurred, her manner of conduct was still unimaginably cold-blooded. This is driven home by the fact she was evaluated by 2 clinical psychologists during her time in custody, and not a single abnormality was discovered with relation to her psychological state. In other words, there were no signs of mental illness whatsoever. And this
They love the crazy eye shots on this channel, don't they? My God. It's interesting to know that, no signs of actual mental illness were present in her psychological evaluations. I wonder about, does a personality disorder? I would assume that would count as a mental illness. Because I think this woman's got a severe personality disorder. If she doesn't, that's kind of terrifying. Let's get to watching, shall we?
Makes the character study of Casey Anthony just as fascinating as it is terrifying. A human being's state of mind is something most accurately assessed with the full capacity of hindsight. So before we evaluate our first segment of raw footage, here's a quick rundown of each of the essential moments that will give you a broader understanding of what we're actually dealing with. On the 15th of July, 2008, Orlando police received a call from Cindy Anthony, the grandmother of the victim.
911, what's your emergency?
I've heard this 911 call before.
That's really upsetting. The deputy sheriff, I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl. My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her. Your daughter admitted that the baby is where? But the babysitter took her a month ago. My daughter's been looking for her. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter.
God. That would be just a nightmare come true, wouldn't it? Like, I'm sure we'll put more context to Casey Anthony's relationship with her parents, but there's just really something weird about the dynamic there. I know there's a lot of backstory, possible abusive situations, shall we say, which makes sense to me because this girl is not normal. That's not a normal sort of rebellious young person attitude, you know, princess who got away with everything. That's just not normal for a person to do, you know, just, oh.
She just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself.
And this story that she came up with, but the buddy babysitter.
It smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
Okay, what is the 3-year-old's name?
Kaylee. Caylee. Anthony.
Kaylee Anthony?
Yeah.
Even her mum is telling 911 dispatch that it smells like a dead body's been in the car.
How long has she been missing for?
I have not seen her since the 7th of June.
Is your daughter there?
Yes.
Can I speak with her?
And the way that she comes on the phone, just wait for it.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you tell me what's going on a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell me a little bit what's going on?
My daughter's been missing for the last 31 days.
She's just comes on with the biggest effing attitude at first. Just everything about it is so fake and so forced. She always comes off to me as like a teenager who's trying to get away with something, if you know what I mean. That sort of like, the first kind of choked up voice and just, you suck, Casey Anthony.
And you know who has her?
I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today, now from a number that is no longer in service. I did get to speak to my daughter for about a moment.
Why would you not call the police? It's insane. This story that she's come up with is just so stupid. Like, who would ever buy this? This is the one thing that I am consistently struck by is like, I feel like I say it in every video now, but criminals are just dumb. Just dumb.
About a minute.
Who has her? Do you have a name?
Even
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
this freaking 911
To give some
operator is
context
just like,
to this bizarre
what?
phone call, Casey Anthony had left the family home with her daughter a month earlier, stating that she had a work assignment in Tampa and would be traveling the entire time. Kaylee's grandparents would ask repeatedly over the following month to see, or at least speak to their granddaughter, but Casey claimed each and every time that she was too busy with work and that Kaylee was with a nanny who went by the name Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, or Zanny for short. On July
Zanny the nanny. Yeah, she was apparently just getting pissed drunk the whole time and partying. Idiot.
15th, exactly 6 weeks after Kaylee was last seen by her grandparents, George Anthony received a phone call that the family car was at the impound lot. This immediately alerted suspicion, as it was the same car Casey had supposedly been traveling with for work. Suspicion turned into panic once they picked up the vehicle, and George discovered a strong odor emanating from the trunk, one that he recognized from his years as a police officer, and found comparable to that of human decomposition. Through contacting one of Casey's friends, her parents managed to track her down at her boyfriend's house in Orlando, where they were found smoking marijuana and watching TV. When inquired over the whereabouts of
You just suck so bad. So bad. I'm like seething with rage right now.
her daughter, Casey stated that she had been kidnapped 31 days before by the supposed baby.
So, your daughter's been kidnapped 31 effing days ago, and you just sat around with your boyfriend smoking weed? Like, give me a break. Sociopathic fucking behavior, isn't it?
Babysitter. It was at that moment Cindy Anthony called 911.
911, what's your emergency? Who has her? Do you have a name?
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
Who is that? Babysitter?
She's
Who is that?
For about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Why are you
This
calling
woman
now?
doesn't
Why didn't
even
you call
exist.
31 days ago?
Yeah.
I've been looking for her and have got...
even the 911 operator is just pissed off and exasperated. Like, what is wrong with you?
Through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid.
Yeah. Fucking stupid. The whole thing. Oh my god. There's a reason I was putting off watching this video, because I'm going to be so angry. I'm going to be like exhausted by the end of this. It's an hour and 7 minutes long. I'm just going to be like, I need to go to bed. Oh.
I think the officers are here.
The officers are there?
Yes.
Now let's
She
indulge in the
sounds
world of fantasy
unhappy about that, doesn't she?
for just a moment and pretend all of what Casey had just stated was true. She had indeed been working, and her daughter was in fact kidnapped by the babysitter a month earlier. The immediate premise most would gather would be that Casey had no regard for her daughter whatsoever. In the 911 call, there was no urgency nor concern in her voice, and
No,
rather
it
than
was
her
just-
volunteering information, which most parents would do in a frantic manner, it had to be acquired by the dispatcher through repeated inquisition. All
Exactly. She just sounded, rather than a concerned parent, she just sounded like somebody was owning up to a mistake. Like, there was no real concern about her daughter there. Just none of it makes any sense. Unless she's just an idiot trying to get away with it. Basically.
All you have to do is compare Casey's dialogue to that of her mother's in the same phone call. One was indifferent, while the other was distraught. Police would have picked up on this immediately. Even without the bizarre phone call, the circumstances alone would make Casey the prime suspect in her daughter's disappearance. She was immediately interviewed as a witness, which, unbeknownst to her, was the detective's first step in locking her into as many lies as possible.
The date right now is July 16, 2008. The time right now is 04:11 hours. I'm Detective Mellish with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I am with Casey Anthony, is that correct?
Yes.
Casey, you understand this is being recorded?
Yes.
You have any objection to that?
No.
All right. Casey, I got called here in reference to a missing child. You took Casey to a babysitter's house.
Yes.
And who was this babysitter?
Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
Okay. How long had you known Zenaida?
Almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years Christmas this year.
And where did you meet her? Who did you meet her through?
A mutual friend, his name is Jeffrey Michael Hopkins. I met him at Nickelodeon at Universal, and I met her through him. She was his son's nanny at the time.
Does Jeffrey still work at Universal?
No, he does not.
How long has it been since he left?
About 9-10 months, give or take. He moved up to North Carolina for a short time and moved down to Jacksonville within the last 3 months.
How would you characterize your relationship with Miss Anthony?
More or less acquaintances,
Yeah.
Weren't very good friends?
not very good friends.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, this guy was, work acquaintance with her. And she had herself left that job for a long time. I'm sure they'll put it in here, but she just lied her ass off the whole time and led them on this crazy wild goose chase of going to her work. And then, like, after leading them around for about 45 minutes, was like, oh yeah, okay, you got me. I don't even actually work here. Like, the woman is just beyond batshit crazy.
Did you ever work at Universal Studios?
I did.
When did you work at Universal Studios?
Approximately 2002.
How long did you work there for?
1 year.
Did you ever work there at the same time that Casey Anthony worked there?
I don't think so.
You don't recall ever seeing her there?
Never.
Did you ever introduce Casey Anthony to a woman by the name
There's
of
not
Zenaida
even any
Gonzalez?
reaction on her
Did not.
face either.
Did you ever use Zenaida Gonzalez as a nanny?
No, sir.
Do you have any children?
No, sir.
Doesn't even have any kids!
Have you lived in the Orlando area consistently since 2002?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever lived in Jacksonville?
No, sir.
Have you ever lived in North Carolina?
Like,
No.
still, there's just, like, no reaction on her face. She just... Well, I say she thinks she's getting away with it. She kind of does. But can you imagine having the brass frickin' cojones to lie to police and not expect them to look into any of it? Like, that's their job. It's literally what they do. It's just mind-blowing, honestly.
No, sir.
The
Did you
unmitigated
see
goal!
Casey Anthony in the month of June of 2008?
No, sir.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
About a week and a half ago.
Do you know a telephone number for him?
I can find a number
There's
for
no
him.
words.
I don't know a number offhand. No, I do not.
So you met Zenaida through Jeffrey Hopkins,
I did.
and his son Zach Hopkins, I guess. Zenaida used to watch over Zach?
Yes.
And when did
Doesn't
you start
exist.
watching over your child?
It's been within the last year and a half, 2 years that she started watching Kaylee.
She's
How
already
would you
told
normally
them
drop off, or how would you normally
that
do
she
the
was the nanny
exchange
for
with your
2.5
child? Would you
years.
drop the child off? Would she meet you somewhere?
I would usually drop her off. For a few months, we would go over to Jeff's house. He lived over in Avalon Park.
And you would go to Jeff's house, why?
To drop off Kaylee. That's where Zenaida would go to watch both of the kids.
Okay.
It was in a nice centralized area. He had a decent sized house. It was good room for the two of them.
What about your statement? You dropped
Keep
off
in mind,
Kaylee
as a person
June
that
9th,
barely
and
knew her.
You dropped her off to go to work?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Get off
Like,
of work.
yeah, I know again that they said there was no signs of any mental illness, but there's got to be some sort of like severe personality disorder going on here. The way she's able to just come up with these facts, like off the top of her head, it's just scary. Like, I don't know, maybe she's been planning this in her head for a while. I don't know.
I got off of work, left Universal, driving back to pick up Kaylee like a normal day, and I show up to the apartment, knock on the door, nobody answers. So I call Zenaida's cell phone and it's out of service. I didn't really want to come home. I wasn't sure what I'd say.
And if you were going to lie about this nanny looking after your child, why would you lie and say that, oh, she's been a trusted nanny for like over 2 years? Why wouldn't you say, oh, yes, she was highly recommended by somebody and then she took off with my child unexpectedly? That seems a lot more plausible than like a trusted family nanny suddenly absconding with your child. Like,
About not knowing where Kaylee was, still hoping that I would get a call or, find out that Kaylee was coming back so then I could go get her. And I ended up going to my boyfriend Anthony's house. He lives in Sutton Place.
Did you talk to Anthony about what happened with Kaylee?
No, I did not.
Did
why?
you talk to anyone about Kaylee, about your incident with Kaylee? Or the fact
Outside
that
of
she's missing?
a couple people, a couple mutual friends.
Who did
But
you talk
why?
to?
I talked to Jeffrey Hopkins.
Mhm.
The
I talked
person
to
you don't
Juliette
know.
Lewis. She's one of my coworkers at Universal.
Isn't that like an actress, Juliette Lewis? But if you're going to make up a lie like this, why wouldn't you make up a better one? She clearly has a gift for just pulling random facts out of her ass. How could she not make up a better lie than this? It just makes no sense.
She works. You still work at Universal?
Yes,
No, you don't!
Universal?
an event coordinator.
Lies.
Juliet, what position is she? Where she works?
She's also an event coordinator. We work in the same department.
Juliette Lewis doesn't exist. Casey had
Yeah.
briefly worked at Universal.
That's what I thought.
but hadn't been employed there for over 2 years prior to this interview. And she wasn't an
Insane.
event coordinator. She stood behind a kiosk and sold photos of people after they
Yeah.
had been on the Incredible Hulk ride.
You have a number for Juliet?
It's just
And
She
crazy.
in your SIM card?
no, she's not. Some of the more recent numbers, her number just changed because she just moved back up north.
Convenient excuse for all of it, isn't there? So these are only people I've talked to. I don't have their phone numbers offhand, even though I trusted them enough to tell them about my child going missing when I even didn't tell my own parents or own boyfriend. Like, just terrible liar.
She, within the last 2 months, has finished moving up to New York. She's
So-
subleasing her apartment.
So Juliet
Couple
doesn't
months
work at
now.
Universal anymore?
No, she does not.
The famous Juliette Lewis,
What's
the actress.
reason, I asked you this before, and I'll ask you
Yes.
just for the record. What's the reason you didn't call the police before?
I
Hmm.
think part of me was naive enough to think that I could handle this myself, which obviously I couldn't.
What?
And
It's your child!
I was scared that something would happen to her if I did notify the
But you never
authorities
got-
or got the media involved.
But why would you automatically jump to that conclusion when you've not had any communication from this woman? you,
Just fear of the unknown, fear of the potential of Kaylee getting hurt of not being my daughter again.
You disgust me.
I asked you this at the onset and asked you before we went on tape, and I'll ask you again just to make sure we're clear. Is there anything about this story that you're telling me that is untrue? Or is there anything you want to change or divert from what you've already told me?
No, sir.
Did you cause
Silence.
any injury to your
They
child,
do not
Kaylee?
believe a word.
Did you hurt Kaylee or leave her somewhere and you're worried that if we find that out that people are going to look at you a wrong way?
No, sir.
And you're telling me that Zenaida took your child without your permission and hasn't
She's
returned her?
the last person that I've seen with my daughter, yes.
Is she Puerto Rican? Is she Dominican? Is she white?
She's mixed. She's black and Puerto Rican.
Is there any underlying cause to why Zenaida would have taken your child?
Nothing that,
Did she ever make any statements to you about,
only how much she loves Kaylee and how great of a kid she is.
and when you talked to Jeffrey afterwards, I'm assuming that Jeffrey's child is still with him.
His child is still with him.
You said Zenaida had family up in New England, up in New York or
Yes,
something?
she has family down south. Her mother and her sister. Her brother's in New York. She's originally from New York. Pretty much grew up there, moved down here, went to the University of Florida.
Zenaida, the nanny, doesn't exist. Casey never had a babysitter. Being the retrospective viewer, we have the benefit of knowing these are outright fabrications. And
Yeah.
these meticulous details are a textbook sign of a pathological liar. She
Yeah,
speaks
for sure.
eloquently and naturally, as if her dialogue is a reflex response to the questions she's being asked, when in reality, each of these minor details are calculated and deliberately placed for the purpose of deception, and the nonchalant, easygoing tone she employs is used to camouflage anxiety. Casey has not only become accustomed to manipulation, she has become extremely skilled in how to use it effectively. It takes
Yeah,
us to the
definitely.
concept of nurture.
I just, oof, I need a minute to take all of this in. I'm just completely speechless. Oh, God. It's just crazy to think, how easily some people, this stuff just slips out of their mouth, like, as natural as breathing. God.
It most likely had a significant impact on her current circumstances. If we go through what we know about Casey's domestic history, there are numerous occasions where she had gotten away with things that most would not, simply due to the fact that she was able to continuously lie without conscience. A prime example could be when she was 18 years old and stopped attending class midway through her senior year. She literally skipped the entire second half of her final year to go hang out with her older boyfriend. Her parents became suspicious on several occasions,
crazy.
yet each and every time, Casey had some whimsical excuse to which she was given the benefit of the doubt. Then, just days before graduation, her parents were informed by the school of her truancy and that she would not be graduating. When confronted, Casey's excuse was that her timetable was mixed up by the school, causing her to miss classes through no fault of her own. This is
What?
obviously a completely baffling excuse that no
Exactly. Why would you... there's just... In no circumstance would that A, excuse you, or B, be plausible that you wouldn't do anything for an entire half of a school year. Or you would have been telling them everything was fine the whole time. Like, it's just stupid. You suck. Boo. I'm sure they'll get into it. Obviously, there's a lot of accusations that she's made about her childhood and growing up. But I mean, personally, there must have been something going on with her somehow as a kid. I don't know if it's just being able to get away with things. Maybe, she didn't have as much attention. But for me, that I've met people who are like pathological. If lying comes very naturally to them, and they are always extremely messed up. And they've had a lot of really bad things, really scarring and traumatic things happen to them. And that's why they're that way, because they just can't face the reality of being themselves, essentially. So they just lie their way through life. It's just a protection thing. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just naive, but, in my first sort of reaction to seeing this sort of behavior in people is that there must have been something that happened to cause this. I would like to believe that people aren't just like that,
sane person would ever believe. Yet whether it be through denial or an overprotective nature, Casey's parents not only took her at her word, but even shielded her from the consequences of her actions.
What?
They lied to all their family friends that she graduated with honors, and even threw her an extravagant graduation party the day after. This is just one of the many occurrences where Casey...
That just... It's very hard to reconcile those two versions that we've seen of her mother, isn't it? You know? And again, the only sort of circumstance I've seen that sort of overcompensation in is parents who are racked with guilt over something. Trying to, like I say, overcompensate to cover up that something very bad has happened. But who knows? I mean, parenting was also kind of crazy in the 90s, you know? I don't know. I guess we'll watch more. But yeah, I'd like to think that people aren't just like this. But who knows? I'm not a psychiatrist.
Faced no ramifications for misconduct. It seemed to give her the belief that no matter what she did, as long as she could spin one lie after another, or at least drag a lie out for as long as possible, everything would work itself out. The truth is that everything did work itself out when she was dealing with her parents, and she evidently thought the same rules applied with regard to national law and a missing child's investigation. After the initial statement you just heard, Casey was asked if she could take police to all places of interest. She happily obliged, and then proceeded to lead them to a multitude of fake addresses, which she had nothing to do with.
Yeah, this
She
is
then
what I was
took
talking
them
about
to
earlier.
her supposed office at Universal Studios, and literally led 3 senior investigators to the very end of the building, taking over 25 minutes to walk to, before she finally turned around, put her hands in her back pockets, laughed, and admitted that she didn't work there. Completely...
How insane is that? I could not even fathom telling a whisper of a lie to any authority figure, let alone leading 2 or 3 whole ass detectives around multiple locations, just making it all up as I go along. That's insane, honestly.
Dumbfounded, the detectives placed her under arrest and took her to a conference room in the building for what was essentially an interrogation.
Since I left you this morning, I've gone to every address that you've told me. I came over here, I've already talked to all the employees. I found out all these names that you're giving me are people that either never worked here or have been fired here for a long time ago. Okay.
Jeez.
So where we are right now is in a position that doesn't look very good for you. Because obviously I know, and you know, that everything you told me is a lie, correct?
He's
Pretty much everything that you told me, including where Kaylee is right now.
rightfully so.
That I don't know where she is.
Sure you do. And here's,
absolutely
listen,
do not know where she
let me explain something. Looking at you, I know that everything that you've told me is a lie. I am very confident, just by having talked to you this short period of time, that you know where she is.
I legitimately have not seen my daughter in 5 weeks. I didn't let
She's still not even a hint of any sort of emotion besides trying to convince them that she's not, she's not upset at all. If you had not seen your daughter in 5 weeks and she was missing and you thought that she was kidnapped, you would not be talking like this. This is I'm so angry. I'm just going to pause it for a second. Take a deep breath. Oh my god. Right, we're going to get back to watching this. I've only got through 16 minutes so far. Let's soldier through this, shall we?
Because I trusted her with somebody that had been taking care of her, that had been taking good care of her.
Oh, you're a bad
That
actress.
she was comfortable with, that I was comfortable
What about Jeff? You said Jeff worked here until about 2 months ago?
with. No, he hasn't worked here for quite a while.
10 months? How long?
It's been at least 10 months.
Okay. He got fired in 2002. He hasn't been an employee here since 2002.
6
We put
years
a lot
ago.
more together than I think you realize we put together.
Yeah,
But
how
even
do
we're
you
in this
not
office
know
because
that they
our
can
purpose
look
of coming
this
here was to
type
do
of
what?
thing up?
I'm trying to think of places
No,
where I know she's been.
You're not
that can
answering my
help.
question. Do you want us to help? You want to help us find your daughter?
I do want you to
Well, a
help.
good starting point would be to answer the questions, okay?
Mm.
If I say to you, we're here because, and then you just ignore that, like I never asked it, and go off in some other direction, Is that answering the question?
No.
Okay, let's go through this again. We're here because.
Stupid, you suck.
Because I lied, because I brought you up here, and honestly I was reaching for
No, stop
another
right there.
avenue.
I want you to tell me how lying to us is going to help us find your daughter.
Exactly.
Well, then if the main thing you want to do is find your daughter, and you don't think lying to us is
How
gonna
is
help
that
us find her,
reaching
why
for
would you
another
do that?
avenue when you're literally taking it in the wrong direction?
And I know
Stupid.
I'm running out of
Stupid, you suck. Oh my god, I just spat it.
I'm scared of not seeing my daughter.
I'm a parent too. I would have been beside myself.
I have been.
I would have called the police
Lies.
immediately, and that's the part that I just don't understand. Well,
I
we've
didn't
got
know
so
what
many
to do.
resources out there that we could help on day one.
Suck,
You didn't
Casey
know what to
Anthony.
do.
I didn't know what to do. At that point, I'm thinking, okay, they haven't been gone that long. Maybe I can find them. Maybe I can track them down.
We're not stupid, okay? And what you're doing right now is you're treating us like we're stupid. Everything that's coming out of your mouth is a lie. Everything.
Yes.
Either you gave Kaylee to someone and you don't want anyone to find
This
out
guy's
because
pissed and I
you
love
think
it.
you're a bad mom,
I love it.
or something happened to Kaylee and Kaylee's buried somewhere or in a trash can somewhere, and you had something to
Jesus.
do with it. Either way, right now, it's not a very pretty picture to be painting. You're painting yourself as a very bad person. This needs to end.
The truthful thing
This
is that I
needs to
have not
end.
seen my daughter. The last time that I saw her was on the 9th of June.
Remember we had those two people that we were talking about, the person who had an accident and a person who's just a cold-blooded, callous monster? That's telling me that you are the second person, this cold-blooded, callous monster who doesn't
Yes,
care,
you are.
who doesn't want to help because she's
Psycho.
afraid that something so heinous happened that everyone's going to look at her and say, she's a monster, she deserves to go away, she deserves to never see the light of day, this bad thing should happen to her. I don't
Saying
wanna
what we're
believe
all
that right now, but
thinking.
You're giving me no choice. Tell us what happened to Kaylee. Tell us what happened to
I
Kaylee.
dropped off Kaylee. And that's the last time that I've seen her. I dropped her
Where
off.
did you drop her off?
I dropped her off at that apartment.
No, you didn't.
That's exactly
No,
where I
you
dropped
didn't.
her off.
Did you just think that one day she's just going to show up at your house?
No, I sat around yesterday trying to figure out what to do. I'm glad that I ended up seeing my mom, that all of that stuff happened. It happened for a reason because
You're
it was
glad
past
you
due.
saw your mom. You could have saw your mom 5 weeks ago. Said, Mom,
Exactly.
I'm
I
over."
saw my mom's
Jesus.
reaction right off the bat, and it would have been the same from the get-go.
So wait a
What?
minute, you're more afraid of your mom's reaction than you are if you ever see your daughter again?
No, I'm absolutely petrified. Absolutely petrified. I know my mom will never forgive me. I'm never going to forgive myself.
Is it that there's some other thing more important in your life right now that you just weren't really focused on what you were saying when you told us? So you kind of just accidentally told us you had an office here and we needed to be here, or did you purposely mislead us? Which of those two is it?
Exactly.
Okay, so you purposely misled us.
And
This was
what's
all in the
your
attempt to help find your daughter,
excuse
right?
for that?
That makes sense to you, correct?
In a backward sort of way, yes.
How?
I'm coming back to places that are familiar to me, that I know are familiar to her.
What?
Familiar situations that
What did you
maybe,
think?
just maybe
How old is she?
would help. She's almost 3.
She's almost 3. What do you think,
in a
she's
month.
going to take a cab here? I mean, how do you think she's going to get here?
Because she's with someone else.
She's with someone
What?
else.
Somebody who's kidnapped her and she's been gone for 5 weeks. Why the F do you think they would take her to a day outing to Universal? And why wouldn't you say that? The brain is imploding. So much stupid. You suck, Casey Anthony. Boo.
Weeks.
Yes.
Why would a person who has hid your daughter from you for 5 weeks, okay, bring her to the building that you used to work at?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do anymore. If I
Talk
knew
to the
where she
police
was,
truthfully, you
I would've
idiot.
admitted that
Do
a
you
long
think?
time
Do you
ago.
think? Do you believe thinking up more lies to tell us will help us?
Yeah, for God's sakes.
She's with someone that I absolutely do not trust, and that I'm absolutely scared that
That you don't trust yet was babysitting your daughter for a year.
I don't trust her
Exactly.
now because of what happened.
Who did you call first? Who did you go to for help first to help try to find her?
No one.
Oh, no, okay, all right. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Casey was then taken to the
Oh,
county jail, where she in the
cranky.
evening
It's
hours
just
was
ridiculous,
able to make a
isn't
phone
it?
call, and just happened to see her mother on the local news moments
Jesus.
before speaking to her.
Casey? Mom. Hey, sweetie. Oh, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV. Which one?
She's such a
What do you think
bitch.
Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far. You don't know what my involvement is and stuff? Casey.
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't fucking know where she's at. Are you
You're finally getting some accountability for your bullshit, Casey. Doesn't feel very nice, does it?
kidding me?
Casey, don't waste your
She's
call.
just...
Scream and holler at me.
Waste my call sitting in the jail?
Whose fault is you sitting in the jail? Are you blaming me that you're sitting in the jail?
No.
Blame
You
yourself
tell
for
her.
telling lies. You mean it's not your fault? What do you mean it's not your fault, sweetheart? If you'd have told them the truth and not lied about everything, they wouldn't...
Do me a favor, just tell me what Tony's number is. I don't want to talk to you right now.
I don't have his number.
Well,
She's
get
such a
Tony, because I know
bitch.
he's at the house. Get Tony's number for me.
Hey,
Hey, can you give me Tony's number?
I can do that. I don't know what real good it's going to do at this point.
Well, I'd like to talk to him anyway.
Okay.
Because I called to talk to my mother, and it's f***ing waste. Oh, by the way, I don't want any of you coming up
She's
here
such a
when I
piece
have
of
my first
fucking
hearing
shit.
for bond and everything else. Like, don't even waste your time coming up here.
You're making it real tough for anybody to want to try to... I'm not going around and around with you. That's pretty pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Christina would love to talk to you because she thinks that you will tell her what's going on. Frankly, we're going to find out. Everything
I have
she's
no
telling them
clue where
is
Kaylee
lie.
is. If I knew where Kaylee was, do you think any of this would be happening? No.
Anyway, you only got a couple minutes with us, so I'm not going to let you completely waste it. Here's Christina. She thinks she can get through.
No, I want Tony's number. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Hello?
Hi, I'm glad everybody's at my house. Do me a favor, get my brother back because I need Tony's number.
Does Tony have anything to do with Kaylee?
No, nothing.
Okay.
She's
so
clever.
why do you want to talk to Tony?
He's my boyfriend, and I want to actually try to sit and talk to him because I didn't get a chance to talk to him earlier because I got arrested on whim today.
Whim? Oh, God.
I just want to talk to Tony and get a little bit of...
Casey, you have to tell me if you know anything about Kaylee.
Sweetheart,
If anything happens with Kaylee, Casey, I'll die. You understand? I'll die.
Even her best friend.
Oh my god, calling you guys, a waste. Huge waste.
Casey appeared in the court the next morning. And
Oh. That's just sickening, isn't it? No words. What an evil. Just gonna keep watching.
he denied bail by the judge. He cited his reason as her undeniable disregard for the welfare of her own child. She was kept in protective custody, and it
I
would
have
be 9
not
days
seen
until
or heard a single genuine sentiment of fear or anxiety or sadness or regret. That's insane.
she received her first visit from her parents.
Look at her, she's all smiles,
Hi.
laughing. Oh, you make me sick.
Yeah, I love you. I love you too. Hi.
Don't.
We've been seeing you sitting down. We forgive anything that you've said or done.
Hold on. Can we turn the volume down? Yeah, you can probably hear it. My head's gonna explode. What's that T-shirt? I didn't get a chance to ask him. Other things
Kaylee's
besides.
picture's on the back.
She's a psycho.
Dad, show me the shirt.
Yeah, turn around so you can see. It's the Never Lose Hope Foundation. Do you see it?
I can see
Your
part
picture?
of it. Yeah.
Have you seen me? And then it has the information on how to contact.
Okay.
Casey, you don't realize that whole United States is looking for our Kaylee.
I know that, Mom.
Her cover's going to be on People magazine in a few days.
Okay.
With a readership of over 46 million adults
She's not
in
emotional
America,
about
having
that
your missing
whatsoever, is she? Like, if you were actually looking for your missing 3-year-old daughter and you had the revelation, you had that much support behind you, that you were getting a People magazine cover, that would move you to tears at the very least. And nothing.
child on the front cover of People magazine would seem as a godsend to most.
Exactly.
Yet Casey's response is almost as if it's a lost cause.
Yeah, or just like, it's like she's just bracing herself for yet another barrage of shit she's gonna have to make up lies for, you know what I mean? It's, yeah.
we going to be able to find her, do you think?
I hope we can, Mom. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask Lee.
Can you look up a little bit more? Raise your eyes up a little bit. There you go. So now, look straight up so I can look into your eyes, darling. Thank you. I need to do that. It's okay to cry, Casey. It's all right, love. We've all been crying.
I feel like the only time she's actually showed a genuine emotion is when she's had to look her mother in the eyes and know that they can see what a piece of shit she is.
Setting aside morality and ethics for just a moment, Casey at this point would be emotionally exhausted. She had been sitting in an isolated jail cell for almost 2 weeks as the entire world was turning against her. Anyone in her position, guilty or otherwise, would be at near breaking point, and her composed exterior now finally slips. She, for a brief moment, allows herself to be vulnerable, and for perhaps the first time, expresses the pain of her situation. This is one of the few moments where Casey's true self is on display. Of itself, it's a touching moment between a mother and daughter. Yet if we add in the context of the surrounding elements, she is only expressing this pain for herself. Just a moment ago, when she saw her deceased daughter's face on her father's shirt, none of this
seemed
emotion
excited.
came out.
She seemed excited that there was so much attention. You know, it's just... Yeah, she just wanted to see the picture and see what the shirt was about and hear the stories of people looking for her daughter, and she was the center of this big, hopeful effort. You know, it was just... It's all about her in the end, isn't it?
Casey, I want to ask you just a couple questions.
Good.
The rest of the visit is extremely bizarre. Casey's parents try to extract any information they can about Kaylee's possible whereabouts, and each time are essentially dismissed by Casey as if they're asking pointless and irritating questions.
Do we have any pictures of Sandy's apartment?
Lee and I already talked about this. I don't know. It could be on the disc at home. I don't know.
What is your... I can't get into your...
I gave Lee everything already. I gave Lee all of the passwords, everything we could possibly think of all over again.
I want to get some video clips off Kaylee, because the video clip with Grandpa is really helping people. Still pictures don't show...
No, they don't show her personality.
Right. And we need to show her personality, so I need to make sure we get that password.
Yeah. I gave Lee the password.
Please look up, sweetheart. I need to see your eyes.
I want to be able to look at you guys, too. I can't look at you and look at the camera.
Well, you don't have to look at the camera. Look at me.
I'm looking at you.
Okay.
You're sitting very low.
I know.
The exchange switches back and forth from inquisitive and challenging to sympathetic and loving, and every time her parents stop inquiring over the case and show that they still care about Casey herself is when the tears come out.
Do you want to speak to your father now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, how is she still just like having these cute little laughing fits here?
Well, you know something? You really need to keep your spirit high for all this.
I haven't been crying while I've been in here.
Well, you know something?
Anyone else would have. I would have been crying non-stop. She's just... Oh, it's like physically painful to watch this. It's just so wrong. It's just like everything about it is wrong. I mean, it's like they say, everything, emotion builds when they're talking about her and her situation, and it just switches off when they're talking about her daughter. If I get emotional when I'm talking about my pets, you know, I can't imagine what it would be like going through something like that with a child. Yeah, the way she's acting is just so bizarre.
I'm gonna be able to reach out and hug you and give you the big Papa Joe hug.
Papa Joe hug.
But you know,
That's weird.
We gotta get that little girl back any way we can, and we're doing everything we can.
My only concern. I gave Lee a statement. I want him to speak to whoever in the media, give them a statement specifically from me. He's gonna give them an exact quote.
Every time Casey's parents mention that people are willing to help with the search, Casey dismisses their credibility and even attacks some of their characters while she's at it.
Tara?
Tara from Michigan.
You mean Mark's psycho ex-wife, Tara?
Yes.
Listen. People like Tara, people like Jesse who are maybe trying to help.
Yeah, that is Again, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but that seems to me like such a like narcissistic thing to do, and somebody is trying to like gaslight you. It's just tear everything down about the situation they're trying to steer you away from, whether it be a person, a thing that you want to do. You know, that's just classic to me of just being like, oh, they're an effing psycho. Like, you can't trust them, blah, 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 blah. Like, just textbook.
Even Christina, God bless her, don't know what the hell they're talking about.
I want you to know, I want to take your pain away from you. So, you know, you can tell me anything.
So they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and yet you didn't call police for an entire month while your daughter was missing, or speak to anybody about it, because you're the effing expert in all this. Stupid.
I miss you, sweetie.
Yeah, but you do, you weirdo.
I know that. I miss you too.
I wish I could have been a better dad and better grandpa, you know?
You've been a great dad and you've been the best grandfather. Don't for a second.
Look at the emotion on her face. She's not happy about that interaction.
Think otherwise.
Well, you know,
You and Mom have been
Foreshadowing.
the best grandparents. Kaylee's been so lucky. Kaylee is so lucky to have both of you. I can't even put into words how glad I am that she's had both of you. And that she still has both of you.
You know, it goes without saying, you know, that our house is empty without both of you there. It's empty. All the little things that we took for granted, we miss them so much.
That's exactly how I feel.
All your little things and all her little things, it hurts. We're not there. Mom and I are just going through the motions, you know?
I ate coleslaw today. Tell them I ate coleslaw.
Well, you're probably eating a lot of things
What?
you never used to eat before because when you're
Oh, she must be a picky eater.
Bologna. I've been eating bologna and cheese on occasion. Grits. I don't do grits at all. It's terrible.
Well, yeah, kind of, makes you act a little differently when you've not got any choice in the matter, doesn't it? Fucking princess. Ugh.
We get another glimpse at Casey's skill in fabricating information and her ability to intertwine specific details to afford her lies some credibility. These minor intricacies are what would make her extremely convincing if we didn't happen to know otherwise.
They never searched by her full name. They searched by Zenaida Fernandez, whereas Zenaida Gonzalez never by her full name.
And it's Z-E-N.
Z-E-N-A-I-D-A.
Again, with little things like this, like, how does she think her parents aren't speaking to these detectives all the time? They're completely involved in the search efforts. Surely they're gonna figure it out that you're full of shit.
I don't think she has a middle name. There was never a middle name on anything that I remember seeing. And I know she went by both last names. She always has. Since she was younger, since her mom remarried.
So Flores Gonzalez, and you don't know what her stepdad.
Fernandez Gonzalez.
But you don't know what Fernandez Gonzalez.
I think her dad's first name is Victor. Her stepdad, or that could be her real dad, but I remember her saying Victor. Victor and Gloria were her parents.
Victor and Gloria are her parents, but they're separated or divorced.
They are as of now, yeah. That was her stepdad.
Divorced.
But I know she has a lot of money. That's where she got the car from.
I only get one or two.
If she has a lot of money, why is she a nanny? What? None of this is adding up. I hate this. I just feel emotionally exhausted. Ugh, draining.
Phone calls a day that, you know, that are not nice phone calls, but I get many phone calls and many people reaching out that just believe in you. They believe in us finding Kaylee. Okay? So keep your head up high.
Poor girl.
But
God.
if you think of anything that can help, don't be afraid.
Oh, I won't hesitate to let you guys know.
can you say stuff like, I won't hesitate to let you guys know, when you didn't say anything for a month? Just sickening.
Oh, I know, I have been. I've been staying as positive as I can.
Nobody cares, Casey.
After this long, she'd still be local.
There's a possibility.
What's your gut telling you right now?
Well,
You have the
telling
same.
me that she's okay.
Okay, and your gut tells you that she's close or she's hiding.
She's not far. I know.
No, she wasn't far at all. Actually, she was definitely not okay.
In my heart, she's not far. I can feel it.
This was perhaps the first time Casey told the truth when speaking of her daughter's whereabouts, as she indeed wasn't that far away. Her attorney, Jose Baez, eventually managed to get her bail, and Casey was fitted with an electronic monitoring device and released on August 21st. She had spent just over 1 month in custody. 2 months later, police were granted permission to arrest Casey on the charge of first-degree murder. She was taken in for interrogation, but immediately requested her right to counsel. She was kept in the interview room while awaiting her attorney, and the released footage of that period is so bizarre to the point where it's almost comical. The detectives give off a passive, yet glaringly obvious vibe that lets Casey know exactly what they think, being that she is guilty of her daughter's probable death and a fundamentally terrible human being on every imaginable level. Casey's response to this is to essentially ignore it and act as if the discourse between them and the situation itself is an everyday occurrence, one that perhaps doesn't concern the disappearance of her daughter, for which she is being charged for. You'll notice that she effortlessly maintains the same confident and talkative disposition that she had in her previous interviews with police. It's almost surreal to watch given the circumstance and the visual.
Yeah, see again, with that, you've got to have some sort of serious, like, I hate to keep on coming back to it, but like some sort of personality disorder, like sociopathy or narcissism, to just be able to blatantly just disregard that kind of opposition from another person and just carry on as normal, and just, it's unsettling.
The visual element adds an entire new level to the absurdity. The first segment of footage shows the arresting officer waiting with Casey for the lead investigator to arrive. He initiates the conversation by bringing up the subject of Casey's parents. He asserts that he's worried about them, but the actual message he's putting across is that he essentially knows Casey is guilty and that she isn't fooling anyone.
I think the weirdest part about this footage is how natural she's acting in these handcuffs. It's like it's just an accessory to her, like just playing with her hair, crossed on her legs, little princess. Like, these ain't Gucci, girl. You're in a lot of effing trouble.
An indirect yet obvious accusation.
I was afraid that some of what I said to them probably offended them, because I told them that if I find out something that you don't want to hear, I'm going to tell you anyway.
Well, honestly, they'll respect that. That's just, you know, the type of people that they are in the same way.
I know they are. It was never my intention to piss anybody in your family off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not in it to get a conviction. I get nothing out of it. I get zero.
Exactly. You have a job you're trying to do.
I've found a few, and I've not found a few, and it sucks both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it is what it is.
This is a really strange conversation.
Sideways with people tends to be when attorneys get involved.
I've heard most people say that. They don't like attorneys very much.
I have many family members that are attorneys. I have no problems with attorneys. What I have problems with are, at some point, we have to set aside the rules and we have to find kids. And you know what? So be it. That's why I told you in the car. You know, if you tell me anything now, I'll get up and say, yep, I heard it, and she'd already invoked it. We can't use it.
I'm interested to see where the hell he's going with this conversation. I'm sure he's getting to some point, just having a casual sort of trust-building conversation with her. He's, just acting like it's any other conversation she's ever had in her life. Still not upset at all about the fact that he's hinting at dead, missing children and finding them and how much that sucks. He's got more emotion in his voice talking about it than she does. You suck, Casey Anthony.
Any of it. That's just the way it is. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
The detective here has essentially just asked Casey for the information he knows she has about her missing child. Rather than retaliate and refute the blatant accusation, Casey continues with her sharp responses of accordance, as if to say she agrees, and knows exactly where the detective is coming from. Yet although she apparently agrees, she offers no information or follow-up dialogue thereafter. It's so incredibly awkward, yet equally intriguing to watch.
And, you know, when we did another case that I was involved in, you know, they lost a confession. And I sat there and I looked right at the guys that we worked with. I said,
That's not what's important.
who cares?
Yeah.
We found her. We found her, and he's going to get what is coming to him. That's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it works out in the end. And it works out in the end on all sides, to be honest with you. It may not be comfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
And I've done things that if I get caught for, I'm not going to be comfortable, I can tell you that. It's just the way life is. You know, but it's not the end of the road either. And that's what we have to keep in mind. It's not the end of the road.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, just acting like it's any other conversation off the street, isn't she? Just having a nice chat in a cozy coffee shop. I'm not here in frickin' handcuffs. I've not been arrested for first-degree murder, for killing my own daughter. This woman is someone else.
Casey then casually brings up the topic of the grand jury and the media surrounding her murder trial. She raises the questions as if she's talking about her favorite daytime TV show.
Yeah, I know.
But if the subpoena itself is just a regular federal or grand jury subpoena, that's public record.
Yeah.
It doesn't say what it's for. It doesn't say what case it's in. It doesn't. It just says you're subpoenaed to appear before the grand jury.
Well, with them announcing that, you know, there was going to be a grand jury, and obviously my name was thrown out, they knew who the grand jury was for.
Who threw your name out?
All of the media said that it was from an inside source, meaning in here. So that's where they all say is.
I can tell you what I think of the media and what I think of people who leak stuff to the media.
I think it's garbage. Yeah,
But,
I agree. That's the
that
next way of putting it.
That doesn't make it any less necessary. Without them, I'll be quite honest, without the media, we don't find a quarter of the kids that we...
Oh, I agree. It helps. The exposure has helped bring in so many tips for my daughter.
But at the same time, what it creates is it creates a monster that otherwise isn't necessary.
Exactly.
But they're like, this is just such a weird conversation. It's creepy.
It would be much easier to work.
Yeah.
When you make it the national media, then you come up with...
You get the Nancy Graces.
Well, you get the tips also that come from Hawaii that say, I saw Kaylee. Oh, really? Okay, let me call Hawaii and let me send them out. Let me do that.
Ones that are a little bit closer.
Those are what I consider local, because the local stations are going to cover that. That's contiguous to the state of Florida. It's not.
When people are only getting their information from the Nancy Graces or from Globe magazine or People or stuff like that. Are you kidding me?
You're not going to break bad, right? All right. We're going to call him on my cell phone.
Okay. I know this is, oh, yeah, that's not good.
Pull it back there. Just slide your hand out. No,
I honestly can't. So they're a little tight.
Thanks for entertaining us. Just slide your hand out.
Way to go, Corporal Edwards.
Actually, if I could, I would have done that for you.
Do you know Baez's phone number off the top of your head?
No, I do not.
This is just so weird to watch. I
know his office number.
What is that?
407.
I've identified myself. You know when you're in custody.
Yes.
And you signed this. You want your attorney present.
Yes. Hey, it's Casey. I'm with Corporal Edwards. I know the last name. Sorry. I'm at the Sheriff's Department. If you like.
She still is getting little jabs in here and there. So I know your last name. I'm just. I think I need to take a break for a minute. This is bizarre to watch. It's like, I don't know. It's just really discombobulating is the only word I can think to say. Because it's just. Anyway, back to the video.
Yes. And to answer your other question, from that picture, I cut my hair. It was really short even last year. I just started growing it back out this year, so. Just about that.
Okay.
Nobody cares, Casey.
It's been a long day.
It has been.
How was my dad this morning?
He had a hard time.
Not happy?
I only saw him in the media and got a chance to hear him talking to my mom. I spoke to him last night and this morning for just a quick second before he left, so.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning for a little bit. He was with Mark, and he was really struggling. I mean, I can imagine he was having a hard time.
Yeah. As anybody would be if their daughter was arrested for first-degree murder of their grandchild.
Provide testimony to indict you, at least. And he was really struggling with that.
Yeah.
And I felt bad for him, to be honest with you. I truly did.
Well, I even told him last night. I know he was subpoenaed, and under the law, he had to answer whatever questions were asked him, and I told him to do what he had to do.
Imagine you were Casey, but void of any wrongdoing whatsoever. Your daughter was kidnapped 5 weeks ago, and now a detective who thinks you're the culprit is relaying the agonizing moments of your father providing information for your arrest. No matter how stoic or self-controlled your nature, you would most likely be in tears or completely enraged at the overwhelming unjustness of the situation.
You anxious about today at all?
I have been. I mean, this is something, honestly, we've been
I have
for from the beginning, just because of words that were directly spoken from.
Yeah, I know I keep saying it, but it's just insane how she's just treating this like any other conversation. Like, I don't know, like a casual conversation with her boss at the office or something like that, you know? She's not acknowledging the fact at all that she's there in handcuffs, arrested for murder of her own child. Casca fuck, my dudes.
Your knowledge, and also from Sergeant Allen. They were saying that this is what they were planning on doing from the very beginning, from that first day. So they wrote me off within the first couple hours.
Yeah, because you were sus as hell.
To talk to me one-on-one. And
No, it was kind of difficult.
that was kind of difficult considering.
Because you kept lying.
In light of everything that's going on and the fact that you've been arrested for other things makes it a little more difficult to sit down and even talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we haven't wanted to.
Yeah. But I do have counsel, and that's something that, my attorney's always been a phone call away.
Has your attorney ever told you that we would like to speak to you?
And we had agreed, him and I together, that we would all sit down together, him and I, and you guys, and, we'd entertain whatever questions you have, and
There is no possible way that a defense attorney would actually sit down and, as Casey states, entertain any question the police have for them. Yet if we weren't paying close attention, we would take her at her word due to the eloquence of her dialogue and not realize everything she's saying is complete nonsense.
These are police officers. These are homicide. I'm assuming homicide because she's arrested for murder. These are detectives. They deal with attorneys all day, every day. They know the types of things that attorneys would agree to, the types of conversations that they have with their... My mind is so boggled, I can't even think of the word. I can only think the word patients, but that's for consultants. They're, customers, whatever you want to call it. Kat, what are you doing? Clients. That's the word I was searching for. They're clients. Yeah. They know the types of conversations they're going to have with clients, and the types of interactions they're willing to have with police. It's just how does she think she's going to get away with these lies? It's just crazy.
Sense.
So I actually thought that we made it pretty clear that we wanted to talk to you. I mean, obviously, we can't come to you and ask you.
Yeah, understandably.
I thought that you were aware that if you wanted to talk to anybody, that all you got to do was simply ask.
Yeah, well, I know it goes both ways on that, and I guess it would have needed to come.
Right, sorry, strolling with my lighting again. Just another 20 minutes. Watching this completely insane woman spout nonsense.
When Sergeant Allen is making a big deal saying, well, we want to talk to her. When can we talk to her? And he's saying, well, the door's open.
I don't believe he ever told us the door's open.
What's fascinating is how instinctive and confident her assertions are. In any other circumstance, or even without the knowledge we have now, you would have no reason not to believe everything she's saying.
I've heard the words come out of his mouth, even myself, directed to other people that maybe didn't either relay the message or took it a different way. So I don't know. I think the lack of communication has put people in opposite corners when everybody...
How can you have the nerve to say that there's been a lack of communication and in any way blame it on the police when you spent so much time blatantly lying to them, to which you have admitted?
Everybody has the same goal, is to find Kaylee. We all still feel, I as a mom, I know in my gut, there's the feeling as a parent, you know certain things about your child, you can feel that connection. And I still have that feeling, that presence. I know that she's alive. Whether you have a bucket load of evidence downstairs that contradicts that and says otherwise, or all you have is speculation.
She's still not emotional whatsoever talking about this either.
As every tip and every lead followed up on. Yeah.
That we have more than speculation. We have a lot. Or else we wouldn't be to this point. A lot.
This was essentially a direct confrontation. The detective has just told Casey they have sufficient evidence to prove her guilt. Casey doesn't refute or even respond to the accusation. She instead falls back to her ridiculous dialogue once again, hoping the confidence in her voice will mask the absurdity of what she's actually saying.
All I said the same thing to them, that, you know, they said that we're at the end of a hallway, and I'm thinking we're at the end of a hallway and there's two doors. Which door are we going to go through? Or I guess this is, you know, we're at this point, and
we are at this point.
The final step is which door is walked through.
We are well beyond where we were before.
Yeah, because there's a such thing as evidence, Casey. Evidence.
Hallway, I think you were well aware of what hallway we're talking about. Do you understand that?
Well, so there's no question, I guess. You can specify that at this point, or what your perspective is on that.
You have a second?
Absolutely.
Can we come right back?
Yeah, that's fine.
You plan on running off?
I'm not going anywhere.
I gotta stretch out a little bit. I'm not as young as I used to be.
It's unfortunate that right when the pressure was starting to build, the second detective interrupts the exchange, and they both leave the room soon after.
What are you doing, guy?
Casey
Come on.
waits alone for roughly 40 minutes before her attorney shows up.
He's gonna ask you a question. You don't say anything else other than the answer. Okay?
Casey, based on our conversation today, and I read you that form, basically just the same thing I said to Mr. Baez over the phone. If there's been numerous requests for opportunities to speak with us and come to a resolution here. And that's why we brought you here instead of the jail. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, based on your request for us to call him and bring him here, he's here. So what we're going to try to do is give you a few minutes somewhere that's not recorded. No secrets, I told you. This room's recorded. I have to be able to approach my chain and explain why.
The detective now guilefully takes Casey up on her previous offer, where she insisted they were willing to sit down with police and answer questions.
But first, I needed you to tell him, in your own words, if you will, that you'd like to take the opportunity to deal with us like you've made that request in the past. So, is that something you want to tell him?
I told him the same thing we talked about before, that we would entertain any questions that they have. We would listen and discuss it, and if we have something to respond, we'll respond.
Okay, do you want to speak to me in private?
Yes.
So we can clarify this?
Yes.
It would come as no surprise that no conference was to be had. Casey was instead taken...
That was literally the most emotion that she had throughout that entire conversation was, yes, I want to get out of this room and speak to you privately. Please get me out of here.
To the county jail, where she would remain for 2.5 years awaiting trial. Once this footage was released to the public domain, the consensus was that Casey at best was a cold-hearted mother, and at worst, a hideous, despicable murderer. But what's curious is that although these opinions may be accurate, they came from a completely misguided notion, being that her behavior in the footage was entirely genuine. Casey was in all likelihood being completely fake this entire time. So you might be curious as to why a person would actually fake such a poised temperament, when it would be far more fitting to fake sadness and despair. We all have aspects to ourselves that are ungenuine to a certain degree. How we act at a business dinner won't be the way we are at home with our close friends or family. The more comfortable the setting, the more we can be ourselves. Those educated on Casey's past would assert that she was rarely sad, rarely angry, but always this bubbly and agreeable personality, even when it didn't suit the situation. She was one of those people where something just seemed off, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. The evidence put forward suggests that Casey was fake in every single setting and with every single person all of the time. A trait that might go unnoticed in everyday life, yet would clearly stand out when shown under the microscope of a criminal case study. Casey had become so accustomed to this fraudulent way of being that it even came as a natural behavior to her in the extraordinary setting we see here. And the assertion is that because Casey knew just how well she could fabricate this character, she thought she could use it to mask her anxiety, and thus conceal guilty behavior. Casey, in all likelihood, had little to no regard for her daughter. That's not even an argument anymore. But her true temperament here would likely be far more apprehensive due to the concern over her own welfare. Every time the detective...
I know, I keep on saying it, but for somebody to be off like that and to wear this mask 100% of the time with everybody, I just can't see that being somebody who's had a normal, healthy childhood. You know what I mean? Like, that's not normal behavior. That's abnormal emotional development. I'm not trying to make any excuses for her. She sucks. But I just find it really interesting to think about the psychology of these things and try and figure out why people do the stuff that they do, I guess.
Insinuated an accusation, Casey kept the same tone, same demeanor, and same confident, lighthearted disposition. If you took her out of this interrogative setting and placed her in the mall with her friends, it would seem completely normal. She would be faking her personality in both environments, yet we are only able to realize it in one. This type of mindset is linked to sociopathy. Whatever the situation or circumstance, they need to have an advantage over you. So how do they do this? They lie, and also calculate how they are going to feel and react to a certain situation before it occurs. The entirety of her focus was on making herself look good rather than being worried about the actual quality of her character.
And
Casey,
she was trying to be so, like, amiable. And, you know, it's so strange to watch somebody be... It was almost like a girl trying to be one of the guys, you know, like, I don't know, just act like she was a police officer in a way, as if she in her position would have any way to relate to what they were going through. Yeah, it's just awful, isn't it?
Was an inauthentic person long before she ever gave birth to her ill-fated daughter, and her skill at deception alongside her manufactured personality is arguably the most terrifying part of this entire case. On December 11th, 2008, just under 5 months since she was reported missing, Kaylee's skeletal remains were discovered in a swamp less than a mile away from the Anthony household. She was wrapped in a Winnie the Pooh blanket and then placed in a canvas laundry bag. Duct tape was discovered around the nose and mouth area of the skull, and her death was ruled a homicide. Prosecutors in the case then announced they would be seeking the death penalty. There were a multitude of discoveries made in the lead-up to the trial, and many believed it to be an open and shut case due to the damnatory nature of the evidence.
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier when she's not lying when she said Kaylee wasn't far. She was very, very close to them the whole effing time. You piece of shit.
Last day Kaylee was seen alive by anyone other than her mother, and the day many believed she was murdered, Casey Anthony made the following internet searches.
Shot girl. Oh. As in, like, shot girls at a bar. Suffocation foolproof. Oh, that's just vile.
At 7:54 p.m. that same evening, Casey and her boyfriend Tony were seen in a Blockbuster video store. Kaylee was nowhere in sight, and many presume she was already dead and decomposing in Casey's trunk at this point. In the following weeks, Casey went out partying most nights. Just 3 days after her daughter's supposed abduction, she was captured in various photos participating in a hot body contest. 12 days after, she got a tattoo on her back saying Bella Vita, an Italian motto that translates beautiful life. She also made an entry in her diary around the...
That's just so fucked on so many levels. Like, if you wanted somebody to believe this story that you were so concerned and so worried about your abducted daughter. Okay, I gotta see what this journal entry says. It's just so upsetting.
Same time, which read, "I completely trust my own judgment, and I knew that I made the right decision. This is the happiest that I have been in a very long time. I hope that my happiness will continue to grow." The trial commenced on May 24th, 2011.
Oh! That poor little girl. You evil person. Just give the child to your parents. Give her up for adoption. Anything is better than that.
11. The gist of
I hope my happiness continues to grow. That's just disgusting.
Prosecution's argument was that Casey suffocated her daughter with duct tape and then placed her in the trunk for a few days before disposing of her body in the swamp. The motive for the murder was the primary focus during their opening statement.
This isn't just a case about Casey Marie Anthony. It's a story about Kaylee Anthony as well.
Poor thing.
Kaylee Anthony was born on August 9th of 2005. It was a Tuesday. And Kaylee lived nearly every day of her life on a quiet residential street in Orlando called Hope Spring Drive. Casey Anthony, Kaylee's mother, appeared to all outward observers to be what her parents thought.
Sorry, my nose was leaking there.
Thought she was. A loving mother working hard to provide support for her daughter. But as the evidence in this case and the investigation into the background of Casey Anthony will show,
the only real emotion you see on her face through all of this is anger when they say that about her character, isn't it? She doesn't really look sad. She just looks remorseful that she got caught.
that was an illusion. On Monday, June 16th, Cindy Anthony goes to work, as I've described, sometime between 7 and 8 a.m., and is out of the house until the late evening. George Anthony specifically recalls that at 12:50 p.m. on June 16th of 2008, his daughter Casey left the residence on Hope Spring Drive with Kaylee Marie Anthony. Kaylee was wearing a pink shirt, jean shorts, sunglasses, and a backpack. And Jojo, George Anthony, kissed his granddaughter goodbye and never saw her again. In fact, no one but Casey Anthony ever saw Kaylee Marie Anthony.
See, again, the only true reaction she's having is to when they say anything negative about her character whatsoever. You know, she looked a bit sad when they were talking about her daughter in a pink top, but the only true reaction is when they're trying to defame her, essentially. Which is not, it's not defamation when it's true, let me tell you that much.
Alive again.
Screw you, you suck, Casey Anthony.
The evidence in this case will establish that there is no other reason for the placement of multiple pieces of duct tape on this child's face, mouth, and nose other than the specific intent to end that child's life.
Yeah, she's just, there's no emotion when they're talking about, again, I don't even have a child, and I can't imagine the horror just the thought of something like that would bring about your own child. And just nothing. Like, screw you. You suck so bad.
No one but Casey Anthony had access to all the pieces of evidence in this case.
Again, the
duct
only
tape,
reaction.
the laundry bag, the blanket, the shorts, the shirt, the car. No one else lied to their friends, to their family, to investigators.
Yeah.
No one else benefited from the death of Kaylee Marie Anthony. Kaylee's death allowed Casey Anthony to live the good life, at least for those 31 days.
Although there was a lack of direct physical evidence tying the defendant to her daughter's death, the evidence the state actually had still seemed overwhelming, and they understandably thought relying on the facts alone would easily secure a conviction. The defense, on the other hand...
I definitely think they made a massive mistake going for the death penalty. Life in prison, I think they would have got that. The death penalty...
were up against it. So not only did they use charm and appeal to sway the jury's attention away from the evidence, they dropped an absolute bombshell in their opening statements to create as much doubt as humanly possible.
On behalf of the defense, I want to thank you for the sacrifice that you've made in your jury service and coming here and helping us see justice. We know it's no easy task, and we intend, I'm sure both sides, on getting you home as quickly as possible once you have all of the information that you need. Everyone wants to know what happened. How in the world can a mother wait 30 days before ever reporting her child missing? It's insane. It's bizarre. Something's just not right about that.
Yeah.
Well, the answer
to say the very
is actually
least.
relatively simple. She never was missing. Kaylee Anthony died on June 16, 2008, when she drowned in her family's swimming pool. Well, the reason we're all here is because not of the commonality of this tragedy, but of the uniqueness of the family that it happened to. You will hear about ugly things, secret things, things that people don't speak about, things that Casey never spoke about. On June 16, 2008, after Kaylee died, Casey did what she's been doing all her life, or for most of it, hiding her pain, going into that dark corner and pretending that she does not live in the situation that she's living in. This family must keep its secrets quiet. And it all began when Casey was 8 years old and her father came into her room and began to touch her inappropriately. This child, who at 8 years old, learned to lie immediately.
And that is what I kept on hinting at. I'm just so conflicted about all of this because, like, logically, the way that she acts and the way that her parents overcompensate for her behavior as, like, a soothing measure for not only keeping her calm and, you know, assuaged, but also to make themselves feel better about something wrong that's going on. It is something that you see in these sorts of instances. So there's part of me that I don't necessarily 100% believe it because she's insanely manipulative. But there is something sussy between her and her dad. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't know if that's because there's any truth to this accusation. It seems like it could be another bold-faced lie. that she's put forward. You know, and he could have guilt for just not being a good dad. You know, it could be as simple as that. You know, she could have, you know, some people, I don't know, there's arguments that people are kind of genetically predisposed to conditions like sociopathy or psychopathy, and it doesn't take that much from a nurture environment, you know, to trigger something like that, and somebody to have a neglective childhood, to be emotionally underdeveloped, and to be let to get away with everything constantly. I don't know, the whole thing just makes me feel sick, honestly. It just makes me feel sick. It's just...
She could be 13 years old.
Oh,
and then go
God.
to school and play with
Really? That is very upsetting.
the other kids as if nothing ever happened. That will help you understand why
I don't see any
no one
real
knew
tears there. I'm going to say that much.
that her child was dead.
The trial
I see a lot of mimicry. I see some tissue. I don't necessarily see real tears.
trial would go on to last 6 weeks, with the prosecution exposing the truly dark and deceptive nature of Casey's character. While the state relied on fact, the defense clung on to theory, and proposed every conspiracy under the sun in the hope they would create enough skepticism and confusion. One of the more noted details of the trial was the courtroom presence of Jose Baez. He had an exceptional ability of narrative control and storytelling, and his capacity to create a connection with the jury seemed far more adequate than that of the state. This was...
He reeks a bit of sociopathy himself, doesn't he? Look at this fucking suit.
Was recognized and mentioned multiple times in the media, yet the overwhelming majority of those following the case were almost certain that it wouldn't be enough to save the defendant. Closing arguments were put forward on Sunday, the 3rd of July.
Again, I think if they weren't going for the death penalty, she would have got life in prison easy. But they fucked it up.
You have a child.
They went too far.
Child
They got too greedy.
Becomes your life. This case is about the clash between that responsibility and the expectations that go with it and the life that Casey Anthony wanted to have. Casey meets Tony. Tony has this life. He's free. He's a club promoter. He's out there at night with the loud music and dancing, and it's a great free life. So she has a choice.
It's just gross.
A life tethered to a child, or a life free to be 22. And as hard as it is for anyone to imagine, she had to choose between sacrificing two things.
Both of these could equally be true. I mean, why would you Google something like suffocation or foolproof suffocation on the same day that your daughter dies? They can both be true. He could have done that. Who knows? I'm not the one to decide that. And then she could have made the choice to do that to her own daughter. Because she had no remorse, because she was too broken. But there's a lot of people that have been through that type of situation and they don't make the choices that Casey made. So it's no excuse. It's never an excuse. There's never an excuse for doing something like that. But I think ultimately she was the one that did it. I think she made that choice.
The first was her dreams and the life she wanted.
Because not only would it be she gets to be a 22-year-old, it would be she gets to not have any ties to her parents. You know, it's not of any coincidence that she spent the entire 31 days not only partying, but never seeing them and not being in that house and having freedom.
And the second was her child. And we submit to you the evidence in this case shows that the choice she made was her child.
Again. And, you know, there are some people that theorize that Kaylee was Casey's dad's kid. You know, and that was the reason of why she did what she did. But, again, nothing would ever justify making that choice. It's all just fucked.
Here we are at the end of our journey.
Screw you!
And I have to tell you that I probably think you have more questions than you have answers.
Yeah, and you've made sure of that, haven't you?
And if you recall at opening statements,
that was your whole strategy.
The final thing that I told you, at the end of the day, when everything is said and done, the one question will never be answered. The key question in this case will never be answered. It can never be proven. And that is, how did Kaylee die? I'm going to start with my biggest fear. I'm going to tell you right up front what I fear may happen in this case. And I want to talk to you about it and explain why I feel that way. This case deals with so much emotion.
He's incredibly manipulative.
I know that there were times where every single person in here felt something deep down inside. Your rules of deliberation, what the law is that this case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or are angry at anyone.
You'll notice that Mr. Baez locks the jury's focus on this while subtly concealing this. He presents the argument that the prosecution has purposely got the jury emotionally invested in the case in the hope it would push them towards a guilty verdict. Yet in this exact same statement, he himself is getting them emotionally invested for the exact opposite reason.
Yeah, he's getting all choked up at the right points. He's so emotional because he just cares so much about poor Casey Anthony. And I mean, honestly, yeah, if your dad did that to her, that's horrifying. Horrifying beyond words. That is, it's just something oh God. And, you know, we should feel sympathy for her in that regard, but also that doesn't excuse you for being an effing monster. It's just insane. Yeah, they can't ultimately prove how she died because she was too... And it was only skeletal remains when they finally found her, but, there's no evidence that there was anybody else involved other than Casey. And there's evidence to indicate that she Googled how to do it, you know. Anyway.
Refuting the prosecution's supposed attempt to entice anger, he subtly attempts to evoke empathy. Say what you want about this attorney and the ethics of his conduct, but what you are about to witness is expertly done, and what many believe to be what saved Casey Anthony's life.
And that's because, obviously, we want you to base your verdict on the evidence, not on emotion. And it's my biggest fear because it's such a difficult thing for you to push aside. Kaylee Anthony was a beautiful, sweet, innocent child who died far too soon. There's no doubt about it, and that is not disputed by anyone. But to parade her up here, to invoke your emotion, would be improper. It's improper under the law, and it's improper as to the rules of your deliberation. He went on for a great length of time talking about this beautiful child. Not on his evidence, not on the evidence that was presented before you. It was to set up the emotion for what was to come. And that is exactly how this case was presented. They didn't come right out the gate and show you the evidence.
Kind of wish I'd been on this jury because it would have gone a different way, because I'm not buying any of this bullshit, sir. It just reeks. Just reeks, doesn't it? Yes, there's getting emotions involved, but also humanizing the victim. And you have to set up stakes in a case like this. You can't just present cold hard facts. And you came straight out the gate with saying horrible things and making tons of sympathy for Casey Anthony. It's all just bullshit.
They gave you 2 weeks of testimony that was completely irrelevant and served only one purpose.
And you didn't? Saying those awful things about what a little girl had to go through so vulgarly? Just shocking shit. That was necessary? Go fuck yourself, sir.
And that was to paint Casey Anthony as a slut, as a party girl, as a girl who lies, and has absolutely nothing to do with how Kaylee died.
Yeah, talking about not evoking emotion, he's using stuff like, just using terminology like slut. Just painting things so vulgarly. Just, honestly, I'm still reeling from what he said about about the abuse and stuff like that. That's just... If none of that's true, that's just straight up evil. That you can just go out and say something like that. If you had a shred of decency or empathy for Casey as a human being, and what she must have gone through, if that's true, how could you say that in front of her? With her abuser in the courtroom. It's just blatant manipulation, and it's just disgusting.
And this prosecution was geared in such a manner that it was deliberate, it was methodical, it was thorough, and it was detailed.
And you're not?
Mr. Baez then focuses on the fact that the state has the burden of proof, and thereafter continues to intertwine the two essential features of his argument, empathy and doubt.
Don't speculate. Don't guess. It has to be proven to you.
I hate watching him almost as much as I hate watching her. You leave an icky feeling in my heart, sir.
Beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. If you don't know what happened, it wasn't proven. We don't want you to tell us what you think happened. We want you to tell us what was proven happened. And that's the difference here.
See, that's the thing. Again, I know I keep on saying it, but if they hadn't gone for the death penalty, she wouldn't have had a chance.
You can go on and speculate all day long as to the different theories that were posed before you, as to the different possibilities. But the truth of the matter is it must be what was proven. There are no mysteries to solve here. There should be no mystery before you right now. If you have questions, then it was not proven. And that's as simple as it goes. Now, back to what I was saying with their initial setup, the way the case was presented, the first couple of weeks. You see, the strategy behind that is if you hate her, if you think she's a lying, no-good slut,
you keep saying that. Jesus Christ.
This evidence in a different light. You'll start to, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm seeing something that's not there. And start to actually discriminate against her rather than give her the standard that is afforded to each and every citizen in our country. And that is that the state, that the government come in here and prove their case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. But you can get away with that if we can get a jury to hate her. But you're here to fulfill an oath. You've labored tremendously over this journey.
Can this just be over?
And we're going to ask you to render a verdict of not guilty.
I hate watching this.
on these charges because they simply were not proven.
I just want him to shut up now.
And they're simply not true.
For the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida. State of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony. As to case number 2008 CF 15606-0. As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011.
How could you not at least find her guilty of aggravated child abuse? Like, maybe it was neglectful to let her drown in a pool rather than abusive, but
11,
just
foreperson. As to the charge,
exhausting. A poor girl. Just so unfair.
of aggravated manslaughter of a child. Verdict is to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. So say we all, dated at Orlando.
Yeah, why was there no neglect charges in there whatsoever? They just really messed it up. Didn't have any neglect charges, any gray areas in there whatsoever. It was just murder and abuse. There should have been some... I guess I don't know, maybe it's because there was so much media coverage and everybody was so against her at the time and everybody thought it was just going to be a slam dunk. They went straight for the death penalty, murder one, everything like that. You know, just...
Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July.
It's the only time I've actually ever seen her cry.
And juror number 12, release your...
And even then, there's not even that many tears.
Thank you.
Okay. Will counsel and the defendant approach the podium?
Well, I hope that this is a lesson to those of you having indulged in media assassination for 3 years.
Screw you, Colonel Sanders.
Bias and prejudice and incompetent talking heads saying what would...
He was the one calling her a slut the whole time. It makes me so angry. I wonder what goes through the minds of people like criminal defense attorneys like this. Like, do they actually believe in what they're saying in some way, or are they just soulless and it's all about the money?
Would be and how to be. I'm disgusted by some of the lawyers.
Stop looking so pleased with yourself, you little
and I can tell
turd.
you, my colleagues from coast to coast and border to border have condemned this whole process of lawyers getting on television and talking about cases that they don't know a damn thing about and don't have the experience to back up their words or the law to do it. Now you've learned a lesson.
Oh, shut up, Colonel
Appreciate
Sanders.
those of you that have been objective and professional, we like it. Others, we're going to be talking to again. Thank you very much.
Casey did not murder Kaylee. It's that simple.
Go away. I've had enough of you. Stop talking. Go away. Please, get off of my screen.
And today, our system of justice has not dishonored her memory by a false conviction.
Oh, God. Thank God it's over. Oh, I knew that was going to be hard to watch. But, yeah, that was, sucked the life right out of me, that one. Jeez Louise. JC Gracie. Well, there was that. I feel like I need a 100-year nap to restore the vitality back into my soul. There's just so much about that case that's just so upsetting. It just all feels so unfair, and there's so many unanswered questions, and just, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. don't know. I'd like to know what some of you guys think. Like, honestly, I've watched some true crime stuff on it. Obviously, I've knew general details of the background and the accusations she made against her dad and stuff like that, and you know, all about Zanny the frickin' nanny. But do you believe anything that she said? Do you believe that she wasn't responsible for it? I think there was some accusations in the end that, I don't know, she was kind of saying that she had some like recovered memories that her dad actually killed Kaylee, and she was just covering for him the whole time rather than her drowning in the pool by accident. And no, it's just all so much mental gymnastics, honestly. Exhausting. Right, it feels strange once more to say I hope you enjoyed the video, but I hope you got something out of it somehow, somewhere. But yeah, if you could like, comment, subscribe, share the video, do all those great things, and I will see you next time. Bye.